In the first section of the Intro to Wine, we will discuss the history, some brief terminology, and the production of wine. Wine is believed to be developed around 8,000 years ago, in many places around the Middle East. Wine is an alcoholic beverage made from fermented grapes or other fruits. The natural chemical balance of grapes lets them ferment without the addition of sugars, acids, enzymes, water, or other nutrients. Yeast consumes the sugars in the grapes and converts them into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Different varieties of grapes and strains of yeasts produce different types of wine. First, let's go over some basic terminology needed for this course. Vintage refers to the year the grapes were grown and harvested. A varietal describes a wine made primarily from a single named grape variety. For example, the Chardonnay grape creates a Chardonnay wine. A vintner is a person engaged in winemaking, or a winemaker. Next, let's discuss the production of wine. Wines can be grouped into the 6 primary categories: white wines, red wines, rosé wines, sparkling wines, dessert wines and fortified wines. There are many wine production styles used for the different types of wines being created. What follows is a general interpretation of the winemaking process. There are 2 different types of grapes, white grapes and black grapes. White grapes are never literally white, but instead are lighter skinned grapes that can be green, yellow-green, gold or light orange. Black grapes, called such because black is the opposite of white, are also never literally black. Rather, they are grapes with a red or blue tint, and range from light ruby to a deep indigo. The stem or stalk is often detached from the grape prior to crushing, a process known as de-stemming. Stems contain a high amount of tannins and are sometimes kept with the grape juice in order to transfer those tannins to the juice. This is seen more commonly in red wine production, because they tend to have much higher levels of tannins. After grapes are harvested, they are placed in a clean container and crushed. No matter what type of wine is being created, after the crushing of the grapes, the juice is always sent to the fermentation vessel. However, in red wine production the skins of the grapes are left in the juice during the fermentation process. The skin of a black grape is arguably the most important ingredient of red wine. Because the pulp of the grape is colorless, the tannins and color compounds of the skin are necessary to give red wine its beautiful color. The pigment from the skins is transferred into the wine, when the skins are left in the juice during fermentation. This process is called maceration. Yeast which are added by the winemaker, interact with the sugar in the grape juice to produce alcohol, a process known as fermentation. Fermentation requires time. Wine can ferment for 3 days or 3 years, depending on the style of wine the winemaker is trying to produce. Oak and stainless steel barrels are today's most popular choices for the location of the fermentation process. The type of container used to ferment the wine is important for the different characteristics the winemaker wishes to impart upon their own wine. The fermentation process of any wine may undergo 1 to 3 steps, depending on the winemaker. After initial fermentation, the wine may go through secondary fermentation. During the secondary fermentation and aging process, which takes 3 to 6 months, the fermentation continues very slowly. The wine is kept under an airlock to protect the wine from oxidation. Proteins from the grape are broken down and the remaining yeast cells and other fine particles from the grapes are allowed to settle. Another part of the fermentation process may be malolactic fermentation. Malolactic fermentation occurs when lactic acid bacteria metabolize malic acid and produce lactic acid and carbon dioxide. This process is carried out either as an intentional procedure during the aging process, or by chance. Malolactic fermentation can improve the taste of wine that has high levels of malic acid. Because malic acid, in higher concentration, generally causes an unpleasant harsh and bitter taste sensation, whereas lactic acid is more gentle and less sour. The use of lactic acid bacteria is the reason why some Chardonnays can taste buttery, or creamy. All red wines go through complete malolactic fermentation, both to lessen the acid of the wine and to remove the possibility that malolactic fermentation will occur in the bottle. Lighter aromatic wines such as Riesling generally do not go through malolactic fermentation. After fermentation, some wines may go through the blending process. The blending process is where several wines are blended together to achieve a desired flavor. These adjustments can be as simple as adjusting acid or tannin levels, to as complex as blending different varieties or vintages to achieve a consistent taste. Filtration in winemaking is used to accomplish two objectives: clarification and microbial stabilization. In clarification, large particles that affect the visual appearance of the wine are removed. In microbial stabilization, organisms that affect the stability of the wine are removed, therefore reducing the likelihood of re-fermentation or spoilage. The final step in wine production is bottling. Sulfites are typically added to help preserve the wine and prevent unwanted fermentation in the bottle. The wine bottles then are traditionally sealed with a cork, synthetic corks, or screw caps. Earlier in the course, we stated that there are 6 different styles of wine: sparkling, white, red, rosé, dessert, and fortified wine. Let's discuss each one a little bit more in depth. Starting with sparkling wines. Sparkling wines refer to the varieties of wines around the world that has a high level of carbon dioxide within it. Champagne is the most popular version of sparkling wines. Champagne is a region of France 90 miles northeast of Paris. Almost all champagne must come from the Champagne region of France. However, there are some American sparkling wine producers who do use the term champagne. The United States was in the midst of prohibition when France attempted to secure the name champagne. This is why, for many years, companies in the United States were able to call their product champagne even though it was not made in the region of Champagne. All sparkling wines come from a unique process where the wine is fermented twice. The first fermentation turns the grape juice into wine. After several months, the wine is mixed with sugar and yeast. The wine is then bottled, corked and capped. It is then stored on its side. The bottle is later inverted. It is during this stage that the second fermentation takes place. The sediment from the stage filters down to the bottom of the cork, in which the neck of the bottle is frozen and the metal cap is taken off. The sediment is frozen and causes the cork to blow off. The wine is then replaced and recorked. During the secondary fermentation, the wine gets its effervescence. There are several different types of sparkling wines, and here are a few you should be aware of. Extra brut refers to extremely dry. Brut means dry to very dry. Extra sec means medium dry. Sec means dry. Rosé means sweet to very sweet. Demi-sec means sweet. You should know the difference between their types of champagne so that you can determine what a sparkling wine may be like without tasting it. Finally, let's discuss the serving procedures for sparkling wines. When opening a bottle, the cork of the bottle should be pointed away from everyone. Neatly cut the foil underneath the wired cage. Remove the foil and place a towel over the top of the bottle. While the bottle is tilted at a 45 degrees, loosen the wired cage by untwisting the wire. Remove the wired cage, but always keep one thumb on the top of the cork. One hand should be on top of the bottle, the other hand should be placed underneath the bottle. Slowly rotate the bottle, while holding the cork. The goal is to have the sparkling wine make a whisper rather than a pop or a loud bang. When pouring sparkling wine, remember to use the towel to rid the lip of the bottle of any bothersome drops they may interfere with a guest. Pour continuous pours into the flute glass. Only a thin, single stream should enter into the glass. white and red wines, we have already discussed. Yet, let's discuss the serving method of red and white wines. Depending on the wine that you are serving, different types of drinking vessels are available. There are white wine glasses and red wine glasses, but they even go more in depth than that. Some glassware are as specific as the varietal they are to drink with. When serving a bottle of wine, first display the bottle of wine and the label to the guest who ordered it. You want to cut the cap of the bottle, drag the knife around the neck of the bottle. But do not turn the bottle, keep the label facing the guest. While the label is facing the guest, twist the corkscrew into the top of the cork. Turn the corkscrew, not the bottle. Remove the cork slowly. Start with the guest, who ordered the wine. Pour an ounce into their wine glass. And allow the guest to taste the wine. Once the guest approves the wine, then start with the oldest female to the youngest female. And then pour the wine from men oldest to youngest, ending with the guest who ordered it. When pouring the wine, you want to make it a continuous pour. While stopping the pour, twist the bottle and use a towel to wipe away any drippage. Now let's discuss dessert wines. There are 4 styles of dessert wine, which would include botrytized wines, muscat, ice wines and late harvest. Botrytis is a natural process used in producing the wine. Botrytis fungus covers the small ripe grapes. The fungus eventually eats away the skin of the grape and accepts the juice. The fungus actually causes the grape to dehydrate and produce even more sugar. At the same time, the fungus causes the grape to lose some bit of its already acidic charm. After the yeast is added to the must, the sugar begin to turn into alcohol. However, the yeast is eventually killed off by the alcohol concentration. Lots of sugar is left, causing a delightfully sweet wine. The Muscat family spreads into many variations and different styles. The grape is traditionally known for its aroma. The wine tends to be underappreciated because they are not as thick and strong as other dessert wine styles. Ice wines are where the grapes are left to freeze on the vine. The cold temperature allows the grape to produce more sugars. Late harvest wines are grapes left on the vines beyond harvest time. This thickens the grape skin, causing more sugars within the grape. During the winemaking process, fermentation is stopped short, leaving more sugars within the wines. The final section covers fortified wines. Fortified wines are wines that have an added distilled beverage, traditionally brandy, within them. In this section, we will discuss 4 major fortified wines: vermouth, sherry, madeira, and port. Vermouth is an aromatized wine, that is, a wine fortified with grape spirit, then flavored with botanicals, usually a combination of herbs, roots, seeds, fruits, and flowers. There are 4 styles of vermouth: dry, sweet, blanco, and rosé. Vermouths are often served on the rocks prior to a meal, but sweet and rosé styles can be great digestives. Sherry is a Spanish wine fortified with grape spirit. Once the Spanish wine is fermented, the wine is pumped half full into casks. Some wines actually become sherry. Only sherries will have a white film on the top of the surface of the wine. The white film is called flor or flour. Flor is an airborne yeast that can be a thick or a thin yeast. There are 6 different types of sherries: Fino, Manzanilla, Amontillado, Oloroso, Cream Sherry, and Pedro Ximénez. A person who sells sherry should know the differences between the different styles of sherries. Sherry should be served in brandy snifters or on the rocks. Madeira is a Portuguese product made of wine and fortified with a grape spirit. Madeira is the only wine purposefully matured for a short period at high temperatures. It is fortified with a grape spirit and moved to a cooler cellar, where Madeira stays for at least 18 months. There are 5 different types of Madeira: Serchal, Verdelho, Rainwater, Beal, and Momsey. Madeira should be served in wine glasses or small wine glasses. Finally, we will discuss port. Port is a wine that is fortified with grape brandy. A young wine is considered for turning into port will be subject to halted fermentation with the use of brandy. This leaves some of the grape's sugar unfermented, causing sweetness to the wine. Port is then aged in oak casks. There are 5 styles of port: white, ruby, tunny, vintage, and late bottle vintages. Everyone who sells port should know the differences between these styles. Ports should be served in wine glass or port glasses. If you are serving a bottle of a late vintage port, you will want to decant the bottle. This concludes our section on style of wine. In this section, we will be discussing the most common, white, and red varietals. We will start with white varietals. Albarino is a Spanish grape, which makes a light, crisp, refreshing style of wine. Aligot is a white wine grape grown in Burgundy, France, making medium-bodied, crisp, dry wines with spicy character. Arnies is a light-bodied dry wine from the Piedmont region of Italy. Auslese is a German white wine, from grapes that are very ripe and high in sugar. Chardonnay can have a range of flavors: apple, pear, vanilla, fig, peach, pineapple, melon, citrus, lemon, grapefruit, honey, spice, butterscotch, butter and amp. Hazelnut. Chardonnay, due to its popularity, is grown around the world. However, it is the finest white wine of the Burgundy region of France. Chardonnay takes well to oak aging and barrel fermentation. Many winemakers utilize the Chardonnay grape due to its versatility. Chenin Blanc is a white wine grape ranging in taste from clean, crisp and fruity, to rich, sweet and honeyed. It has a good acidity level, thin skin, and a high natural sugar content, making it very suitable for either sparkling or sweet wines, although some dry wines may contain it too. Gewürztraminer is a grape that is highly aromatic, yields a lightly spicy white wine that ranges from off-dry to sweet. Pinot Blanc is a varietal that is best perhaps in Alsace, where it is best produced properly by building a wine high in fruit. Pinot Gris is a variety undoubtedly at its best in Alsace, where it can be produced succulent, rich, and complex wines of great quality. Riesling is a classic German grape variety. It can be produced in such a manner in which tremendous fruit acidity ratio or rather sweet. Semillon is a white grape varietal most commonly found in French wines. Melon or fig is the best to describe this varietal. Sauvignon Blanc, a white wine grape that is noted for its grassy, herbaceous aroma and lively, even aggressive acidity. Robert Mondavi created the name Fumé Blanc describing a dry version of this grape. Viognier is an individual shy-bearing vine, producing the famous superb dry wines of Condrieu and Chateau Grillet from the Rhône Valley. There are many more white varietals, but those are all that we will discuss for this course. Now let's discuss the red varietals. Cabernet Sauvignon is a red grape grown throughout the world. It yields many of the great wines of Bordeaux and California. Typically has a distinctive blackcurrant flavor. Cabernet Franc is a red grape is most well known as a blending grape, by itself, slightly earthy style of wine that is very aromatic. Carmenere, this red wine grape variety produces deep-colored, full-bodied wines. Grenache is generally spicy, berry-flavored and soft on the palate with a relatively high alcohol content. It is one of the most popular planted grapes in the world. Malbec is a grape that is traditionally used in Bordeaux blends in order to provide color and tannin. Malbec has become a major wine for Argentina. Merlot is a red wine grape which contributes fruit, softness, suppleness, and charm to many wines or stands alone by itself. Nebbiolo is a red grape, grown in Piedmont, Italy which produces some of the finest Italian wines such as Barolo and Barbaresco. Pinot Noir, this fragile red grape is difficult to grow. Nearly all red French Burgundy wines are made from 100% Pinot Noir. Sangiovese, this is the principal variety in Chianti. In a pure varietal form it can lack fruit and have a metallic finish. Shiraz or Syrah, this red grape was grown originally in France, but which has also gained prominence in Australia and now it is world-renowned. Zinfandel, this grape lends itself to many styles. From light and fruity to ripe, rich, tannic, and intensely flavored. This extreme diversity has made it the most widely planted grape in California. Zinfandel is often described as spicy, berry-like or brambly. This concludes the section on varietals.